gentlemen, this is your captain speaking, and today we're looking at the 2013 first-person shooter BioShock Infinite, developed by Irrational Games and, as of now, standing as the final entry in the BioShock series. When we last checked in with game director Ken Levine, he had his sights set on the XCOM franchise as he felt burnt out on BioShock and didn't want to return for a sequel. That lasted for all of about 6 months before he felt the desire to return to the series, which was happily accepted by higher-ups at 2K Games who weren't happy that Irrational Games wasn't making BioShock 2. So the team was given the green light to work on the third BioShock game while the second was still in development. After ditching the idea of once again returning to Rapture, this time in the midst of the Civil War, and abandoning a Renaissance setting after Assassin's Creed 2 stole their thunder, they settled on the idea of a city in the sky. The city in the sky originally featured an Art Nouveau style and dark stormy clouds, though both were changed so as not to carry the same oppressive atmosphere as Rapture. Once again, after establishing a weird city in a location where cities aren't, the familiar questions were asked. Who built it? Why did they build it? And who are we? And after many years of turbulent development, scrapped ideas, and unchecked creativity, the project was eventually reined in by BioShock 2 director Jordan Thomas and Rod Ferguson, producer of the Gears of War franchise with a reputation for being able to make the tough decisions so games ship on time. We finally got answers to those questions. The city in the sky, now named Columbia after the female personification of the United States, was heavily inspired by the World Columbian Exposition, standing as the epitome of American exceptionalism and run by the prophet Zachary Hale Comstock, intentionally or accidentally becoming the exact opposite of Andrew Ryan's Rapture. The one remaining question is, who are we? And, well, let's just say this works better as multiple choice. So drain the water out of your ears and put your hand over your heart as we give it everything we've got! The game begins with a question you always want to hear.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
Still better than Davy Jones asking if you fear death. After this random quote and the knowledge that we're back in the year 1912 off the coast of Maine, we join our protagonist Booker DeWitt as he rides toward a lighthouse with two people engaged in a conversation.
One goes into an experiment knowing one could fail.
But one does not undertake an experiment knowing one has failed.
Can we get back to the rowing?
I suggest you do. We're never going to get there.
No, I mean I'd greatly appreciate it if you would assist.
Perhaps you should ask him. I imagine he has a greater interest in getting there than I do.
I suppose he does. There's no point in asking.
Why not?
Because he doesn't row.
He doesn't row?
No, he doesn't row.
Ah, I see what you mean.
I mean, he probably could if he wanted to. And hey, we actually have a protagonist that talks. But anyway, Booker climbs onto the dock and approaches the lighthouse, where he sees a reminder that his mission is to find the girl, the one he has a picture of, in order to clear his debts. Now inside, he passes a baptism opportunity and ascends higher, coming across a dead man who clearly failed his objective. At the top of the lighthouse, Booker inputs a code that the sky really doesn't seem to like for some reason, and then straps in for the journey ahead of him.
No, God damn it!
Ascension. Ascension in the count of 5. Count of 4.
No.
3, 2, 1. Ascension. Ascension.
Just stay calm.
5,000 feet. 10,000 feet. 15,000 feet. Hallelujah.
In this strange chamber of way too many candles, Booker comes across many messages about how the seed of the prophet shall sit the throne and drown in flames the mountain of man. Apparently Zachary Comstock isn't a big fan of Mount Rushmore. In a side shrine to Lady Comstock, Booker can find the first Voxophone, Columbia's audio logs. There aren't nearly as many to collect this time around, only 80, and they aren't as important or interesting in my opinion, though I'll be sure to highlight them when they come up. And for some reason, they don't have subtitles, only transcripts on this ugly menu. Trust me, I looked. A lot. Anyway, the other side shrine is dedicated to the Lamb, which is either a huge coincidence or obvious ripoff of BioShock 2. In order to leave and enter Columbia proper, Booker must be baptized and be washed clean of his sins from the Sodom below, the Columbian term for anywhere that isn't Columbia. The preacher gets a bit too excited and drowns Booker, which gives him time to dream.
Who's there? Who's there?
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt!
What do you want?
We had a deal, DeWitt! Open this door right now!
I told you! I'm not gonna do it! Now go away!
Mr. DeWitt! Mr. DeWitt!
Oh, don't you hate when the burning city of New York 70 years in the future demands you bring it the girl to wipe away your debts? Happens all the time. Now awake, Booker sees that Comstock doesn't really believe in the whole separation of church and state thing. Comstock and his followers worship the founding fathers George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Benjamin Franklin, with Columbia in their eyes being the perfect version of the fathers' vision for the United States. Columbia was actually a part of the United States before seceding in 1902, and by seceding, I mean floating higher up. It debuted at the World's Columbian Exposition as a traveling spotlight of American exceptionalism that could spread American values to the rest of the world. But that's enough history from a universe that isn't our own for now. Booker sees some posters about the Lamb being protected in the Tower from the false shepherd, and then on his way to the fair, hears something a lot weirder.
God only knows what I'd be without you.
The musically uninclined out there, me included, that was a rendition of God Only Knows by the Beach Boys, a song that wouldn't come out for another 54 years.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
While exploring Columbia, Booker can come across quite a few voxophones from Comstock, mostly about how he's in the corner in the spotlight losing his mind about religion. And then there's this one.
One man goes into the waters of baptism, a different man comes out, born again. But who is that man who lies submerged? Perhaps that swimmer is both sinner and saint, until he is revealed unto the eyes of man.
Those of you who took notes last time will recognize his pondering as a quantum superposition, and in the almighty name of views, instead of explaining what that is, I will now provide a card to take you to my video on BioShock 2 where I tell you exactly what it is. I don't care that it's a forgotten BioShock game, you're watching it if you want to know. Or you could just Google it, but where's the fun in that? I already did all the hard work for you. Continuing on, Booker sees the massive Monument Island where his girl is being kept and receives a strange message.
DeWitt, stop. Do not alert Comstock to your presence. Stop. Whatever you do, do not pick number 77. Stop. Lutess.
Now Booker enters the fair full of displays and games showing off Jeremiah Fink's patented Vigors, Columbia's version of plasmids. They all get mentioned here, but instead I'll be going over them when Booker actually has access to them. The fair is also where the first kinetoscope is found, mini movies that provide more insight to the life and history of Columbia. And just take a look at the very first one.
All alone and feeling blue.
The early 1900s, before health was invented. Next on the list in Fairground Exposition is shooting games where the targets are members of a group called the Vox Populi, led by Daisy Fitzroy. We'll learn more about them later, but they are very much portrayed as the villains of Columbia. The final stop on this exposition expedition is to the Handyman display, Handyman being an unholy marriage of man and machine. Now why does that sound familiar? Unlike their Rapture counterparts, handymen aren't criminals forced into this procedure. Most of them are terminally ill or disabled people who were told that Jeremiah Fink could cure them and make them live forever, with the clunky disproportionate suit probably being hidden in the fine print. Fun fact, they were originally going to look completely different and be called Claw Daddies. Also, they are constantly in immense pain and can never sleep, and they're stuck like that forever. As Booker attempts to leave, a woman gives him a free possession vigor.
With just a whisper, they're all ears.
At least it's better than passing out from the pain of having your genetic code rewritten. Possession allows Booker to take control of machines and turn them to his side, like throwing it at dollar bill vending machines so they spit out free cash. Just like Plasmid's vigors need a special juice to work. Instead of Eve hypos, Booker has to collect bottles of liquid known as salts. I feel like Adam and Eve would better suit the religious-based city, and Vigor and Salt would better suit the more business-based city under the water, but maybe that's just me. Booker uses his new vigor to gain access to the rest of the fair so he can finally leave this one spot, but not before he plays a little game.
Heads.
Or tails.
Come on, let me through. Heads.
Or tails.
Heads. Told you. I never find that as satisfying as I'd imagined.
Chin up, there's always next time.
I suppose there is.
Past a familiar-looking statue, Booker comes across a strange poster.
What the?
Don't worry, Booker, I'm sure many people have scars on their hands to remind them what time period they're in. He wants to get to Monument Island, but the beginning of the annual raffle blocks his way, and he has no choice but to participate. Let's see how that goes for him.
77.
77.
Dang it, man, you had one job! Maybe it won't be so bad.
All right, then. The winner is number 77!
Oh, what do you know?
Over here! He's the winner!
Number 77, come and claim your prize! First throw! First throw!
Please don't do this.
It was me! It was all me! Please! Please! No! Please, what are you doing?
Come on! Are you gonna throw it? Or are you taking your coffee black these days?
Let her go, please! I'm the one you want!
Oh! Looks like we've got a shy one here! We've got to do something about that!
Come on now.
Time's a wasting, my boy!
For you, son
Why
of
don't
a
you give
bitch.
her... Wait! It's him!
Now, where'd you get that brand, boy? Don't you know that makes you the backstabbing snake in the grass false shepherd?
The false shepherd!
And we ain't letting no false shepherd into our flock. Show 'em what we got planned, boys!
Stop him! Stop him!
Well, that was a lot in a short amount of time. Booker, who is apparently Neo, is now the prime enemy of Columbia, which seems like a good thing given that display. He now has to fight his way to Monument Island using the skyhook he stole, which is the third and least satisfying version of the melee weapon trio. It does come with executions though, so it's got that hook. Pretty soon after, Booker will be able to pick up a pistol for some range and come across the first Veni Vidi Vigor machine, which translates to I came and saw the strength. They're the equivalent of Gatherer's Garden machines, providing vigor upgrades, though there isn't a special substance like Adam used to buy them, just cold hard cash. Literally, all their money is coins. The first upgrade allows possession to also be used on enemies, turning them against each other. A fact I immediately forgot, which will be reflected in the gameplay. No big loss, turning this turret against them is much more effective anyway. One thing you may notice is that the fights in Columbia take place in much more expansive areas than Rapture, which was a key part of development. However, the engine restricted how many enemies could appear at one time, so they had to settle for making the enemies tougher to kill. Speaking of tougher to kill, Booker encounters the first Fireman enemy, who will throw fireballs at him. When he's about to die, he'll do one last kamikaze sprint to try and take Booker with him. For taking him down, Booker is rewarded with the Devil's Kiss tonic, which only goes and burns his fingers off. Devil's Kiss is basically a worse version of Incinerate. Instead of setting things alight with a snap, you toss a firebomb and hope it hits an enemy. One feature exclusive to Vigors is that most can be set as traps, though I don't find the traps to be that useful. They cost more salt, and the large areas means enemies are less likely to step on them. Another change you may have noticed is that Booker can't carry medkits or salt bottles to refill his bars when he gets low. Instead, he has to scrounge them up from around Columbia, so I hope you like doing that in Rapture.
I don't want to. Too bad, it's mandatory.
Booker steps into the Blue Ribbon restaurant, and since I got the complete edition, it comes with 2 more new gameplay elements to go over. Instead of tonics, Booker can equip gear, 1 for each of the 4 categories: hat, shirt, pants, and boots. They're pretty much all exclusive to combat, and I don't like it as much as I like tonics. Being limited to only 1 per slot feels like a huge downgrade, and I doubt very many people are actively going in and switching around their gear to best fit each scenario. The other important element is infusions, scarce one-time upgrades to one of 3 things depending on your choice: salts, health, or shield. Salts and health are self-explanatory, though shield is new. It's a little yellow bar above your health that will absorb damage for you without depleting your actual health. Infusions are hard to find, usually off the beaten path or at the end of a puzzle, so don't take them for granted. If you have bad decision paralysis to the point that 3 choices makes you sweat, I followed the pattern of salts, health, shield throughout the game, and it worked pretty well for me. The shield upgrade itself actually comes from Booker's 2 biggest fans before he can progress onward to more of the city and discover another, more intended use for his skyhook. He can attach himself to hooks through the power of intense magnets, allowing him to navigate areas where the ground is far below. It also comes with the Skyline Strike attack, which is always fun to do. Booker can pick up a machine gun nearby, making him more equipped to handle Columbia's finest. He can also find a chest in a nearby building, which is the first of BioShock Infinite's few side quests, which are pretty much all the same. You'll find something locked in one place and the thing to open it in another. Unite the 2 things and you'll reap the rewards. The key for the first chest can be found in the next location of interest on Booker's way more complex than he asked for journey to Monument Island, the Fraternal Order of the Raven, and they're definitely not troubling statue in front of their headquarters seemingly in its own weather bubble. I'm sure they're just misunderstood. Surely that's the end of the red flags.
Oh no!
I think that's a red flag. I don't want to get stabbed.
If it's not obvious yet with the pointy hoods and the crows everywhere, the Fraternal Order of the Raven is Columbia's version of the KKK, but more widely accepted, as it's an extension of Comstock's beliefs. He sees Abraham Lincoln as a false emancipator who only brought death to the United States, solely blaming him for the Civil War. Also, he thinks it's righteous for minorities to serve as the working class to make white people's lives easier. So, real great guy.
What exactly was the great emancipator emancipating the Negro from? From his daily bread, from the nobility of honest work, from wealthy patrons who sponsored them from cradle to grave, from clothing and shelter. And what have they done with their freedom? Why, go to Finkton and you shall find out. No animal is born free, except the white man. And it is our burden to care for the rest of creation.
Progressing deeper and taking care of the Grand Crowzard rewards Booker with the Murder of Crow's Vigor. Now Booker can be Jim Crow 2.0 and lay down the law with a murder of murderous crows to prevent his enemy's success, and they don't get to vote on the matter. Seriously though, this is the first crow enemy. They disappear and reappear at will, and are generally very annoying. Murder of Crows is basically Insect Swarm, as the crows will distract enemies and deal bits of damage, opening them up for more attacks. It's most definitely my favorite vigor in the game.
The false shepherd, this anarchist, is either a mulatto dwarf or a Frenchman with a missing left eye, no more than 4 foot and 9 inches.
Aside from how obviously off that description is, I like the implication that Booker being 4'9" means he's either a dwarf or a regular Frenchman. French slander is always tolerated. Following more proof that no one in Colombia has properly functioning eyeballs is a gondola station that will take Booker to Monument Island. However, due to the whole Satan is literally walking amongst us thing, the gondolas are shut down, meaning Booker has to ride the Skyline instead. The Skyline is the other main use of the Skyhook, as Booker can ride on them and either jump off for a Skyline strike or shoot enemies while making himself harder to hit. His thrilling ride throughout the sky is interrupted by a message from Comstock, whose giant zeppelin is blocking the way.
I know why you've come, false shepherd. I see every sin that blackens your soul. Wounded knee, the Pinkertons, the drinking, the gambling, and of course, Anna. And now, to repay a debt, you've come from my land. But not all debts can be repaid, Booker.
You don't know me, pal.
Prophecy is my business, Mr. DeWitt. As blood as yours. Do you know why these men will die for me? Because I've seen their future in the glory, and hence they are content. What brought you to Columbia, Booker? Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt? This will end in blood, DeWitt. Then again, it always does with you, doesn't it? It always ends in blood.
Jesus.
Booker then turns Zepp Lemons into Zepp Lemonade by boarding it and changing the flight path to Monument Island.
The Lord forgives everything. But I'm just a prophet. So I don't have to. Amen.
Amen.
Jesus!
Well, apparently Monument Island was only a hop, grind, and a jump away because he's already arrived. Past a whole bunch of signs about how this place is dangerous and that no one is allowed in and all that boring stuff is a giant energy siphon apparently connected to the girl in the tower and yet another Comstoxophone.
It is one thing to imagine one's future, and another to see it. I have seen the seeds of fire that will prepare the Sodom below for the coming of the Lord. But Elizabeth shall sow those seeds, not I. I will fall before the job is done. But she shall take up my mantle. The Lord is calling me home. I feel his love in every tumor, because they are the train which takes me to his station. And I go with joy, knowing that Elizabeth will take my earthly place. But the false shepherd is coming to lead my lamb astray. I will not board that train until she is safe from his deceptions.
So he is dead set on protecting his lamb because she is meant to take his place and bring holy vengeance on the world after he dies, and he needs to make sure Booker doesn't prevent that from happening. Seems like he really is a prophet. Up an elevator, Booker sees that the girl is treated like a lab specimen, including a tracker that shows what room she's in and two-way mirrors to observe her, including one in the bathroom. It's a good thing this takes place in 1912 and not 2023, otherwise there would be people lining up to pay for that view.
That's nasty.
Anyway, now we get our first look at the girl who's worth her weight in debts.
That's her.
Okay, so it wasn't anything special, but maybe something more exciting will happen in the dining room.
Whoa! It's got nothing to do with the job at hand.
Well, I'm sure that won't be crucial to the plot or anything. Maybe the third of you will explain what just happened.
What makes the girl different? I suspect it has less to do with what she is, and rather more with what she is not. A small part of her remains from where she came. It would seem the universe does not like its peas mixed with its porridge.
Or not? Alright, forget this. Let's just grab her and go.
Hello?
Hey! Knock it off! Stop it! Will you stop it?
Not here to hurt you.
Who are you?
My name is DeWitt. I'm a friend. I come to get you out of here.
Get away!
Okay, the grab her part didn't exactly go according to plan, but and go shouldn't be an issue.
He's coming. You've gotta go.
Why?
You don't want to be here when he gets here. Just a minute, I'm getting dressed.
Get you out of here.
There's no way out. Trust me, I've looked. Stop it, you're too impatient. That's enough.
Or not! Meet Songbird, Elizabeth's overgrown Overwatcher with the destructive ability of every Big Daddy combined. Just look at what he did to the tower in just a couple minutes. He's also not a big fan of thrilling skyline rides, as he destroys the line and sends Booker and Elizabeth falling through the sky like they were in the 23rd James Bond movie.
Mr. DeWitt! Mr. DeWitt! Clean up the curb and wipe away the debt! Are you in there, DeWitt?
What do you want with her?
We had a deal, DeWitt!
Tell me what you want with her.
Open this door right now!
Are you going to hurt her? Tell me what you want! Anna? Anna!
Anna.
No, it's me, Elizabeth. Are you all right?
Where am I?
Back in the land of the living. Here, let me.
I'll be fine.
You almost drowned. You need to...
I said I'm fine. Just give me a minute.
Do you hear that? It's music.
Go on, I just need to...
Okay, I won't be long. I won't be long, Mr. DeWitt.
Oh man, it's a good thing there was a body of water in the sky to break their fall. In all seriousness, this is Battleship Bay, an artificial beach created for the leisure of Colombians. On his search to once again find Elizabeth, Booker stumbles across a voxophone saying Comstock's life before being born again is a mystery, and an advertisement for the First Lady airship, which just might be their ticket out of here. Booker convinces Elizabeth to come with him by saying they'll take the airship to Paris, and they continue on and once again encounter the Booker DeWitt fan club, this time offering 2 accessories to choose from. Whichever one Booker picks, Elizabeth will wear for the rest of the game. As the Colombians look aghast at the destruction of Monument Island, our 2 leads have a moment to breathe, and I can say a bit about Elizabeth. She was originally going to be 17 years old, it was changed to 19, and looked like this, though this design did not last long. The age was increased when they thought she came off too much like a Disney princess, even scrapping animations and dialogue from this section of the game because it reminded them too much of Tangled. Now back to your regularly scheduled racism. Booker and Elizabeth have to go through the staff halls to progress, which includes segregated bathrooms for black and Irish people. Also, while walking around, there's a chance Elizabeth will stumble across some money to toss Booker's way, so at least she's not entirely useless. She has other uses we'll see later, but they walk right into a trap and Elizabeth runs away when she sees Booker utterly obliterate fools like there's no tomorrow. He can also pick up a nearby shotgun, which is where we see one of the biggest changes made to the gameplay. You no longer hold on to all the weapons you find, nor can you cycle between them at any time. You can only hold 2 at a time. Thankfully, you can pick up ammo for all the guns whether you have them or not. Vigors work in a similar way. You do have access to all of them at any given time, but can only equip 2 to quickly switch between. I know this is a polarizing change, but I don't mind it. There's a lot of weapon variety, and you won't be hard pressed to find a different one when you need to switch things up. And while they don't synergize with the Vigors as well, it does address a core problem that both previous games had of being too easy. You can never really get comfortable with one Vigor weapon combo. You have to stay on your toes and switch things up depending on the encounter. I love strategy games, so I welcomed this change. Also, you can find gear pretty early on that increases the ammo capacity for every gun by 75%, and I highly recommend using it. Anyway, Booker catches up with Elizabeth and calms her down with facts and logic, and the two progress on to Soldier's Field on their path to the First Lady. Soldier's Field, noticeably not a field, is where Booker comes across the first of what will be many locked doors. Elizabeth had nothing but time and books in her tower prison statue, so she's an expert at lockpicking. Lockpicks will be hidden everywhere waiting for Booker to scrounge them up for Elizabeth. Why she doesn't pick them up herself, I have no idea. Keep an eye out for them because they're usually very valuable stuff locked behind these doors. The doors and safes that can be opened will require anywhere between 1 to 5 lockpicks, so you can never have enough. Soldier's Field is also home to the first Minuteman's Armory vending machine, Columbia's answer to the Power to the People machine. You know what that means. Gun upgrades! Unlike the PTTP machines, they aren't one and done freebies. Each upgrade costs money, and usually a lot of it. Soldier's Field is essentially one big theme park created to promote national service and the glory of Columbia to children, like Disney World for assholes. Oh, wait, that's just Disneyland. The gondola to the First Lady Aerodrome is, of course, not working. The only way to fix it is with the Shock Jockey Vigor located in the Hall of Heroes, our next destination. The elevator on the way to the closed attraction malfunctions, and Booker has to fix it.
Oh, it's a bee. I hate these things.
Jeez, just kill it.
No, it'll sting me.
Elizabeth.
I have a better idea.
What are you doing?
Opening a tear.
Oh, shit. What is that?
It's a tear. I used to open them all the time in my tower.
What is a tear?
It's like a window. A window to another world. Most of the time they're dull as dishwater, a different colored towel or tea instead of coffee. But sometimes I see something amazing and I pull it through. There.
Good God. I don't suppose you've got an airship in there?
I don't think so. But there is. There is something. Oh no!
Close it.
I'm trying!
Close it!
I don't blame Booker for not wanting to get involved in all that. Progressing past the mechanical George Washingtons, he gets the Bucking Bronco Vigor. Straight out of Denver, Bucking Bronco launches enemies into the air, making them susceptible to further attacks. Luckily, there are some enemies nearby just waiting to get bucked into the air as they talk about going after someone named Cornelius Slate. This area also has the first of the other side quest variant. Booker will find encoded messages from the Vox Populi and have to locate the code book nearby so Elizabeth can crack the code and find what they're hiding. Some careful skyline maneuvering lands the duo right in front of the Hall of Heroes, which has since been crudely renamed by the aforementioned Cornelius Slate, who is holed up inside. Slate's problem is that Comstock is claiming to be the hero of both the Battle of Wounded Knee and the Battle of Peking, while Slate says he was never there and is taking credit for his actions. He and Booker actually recognize each other as both were members of the 7th Cavalry at Wounded Knee. For those who don't know, the Battle of Wounded Knee is also known as the Wounded Knee Massacre, in which 200 to 300 Native Americans were killed after a botched disarmament attempt. Okay. The Battle of Peking was a part of the xenophobic Boxer Rebellion, in which Chinese rebels went on a spree of murdering Christians and foreigners, blaming them for their country's woes. In this universe, Columbia interfered in the Battle of Peking and burned Peking to the ground. The US, disgusted by these actions and the amount of weaponry possessed by Columbia, recalled them. This led to Columbia seceding from the Union and becoming its own independent city-state. Slate wants Booker to give his men a soldier's death by killing them instead of dying to a tin soldier like Comstock and his men, which Booker has to do in recreations of both battles. After going through Comstock's revisionist history while Booker talks about his regrets and hiding parts of himself, the next task is to go through the First Lady Memorial, which Slate says is also fake.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Though I'm pretty sure everyone could have figured that out when they saw the plaque claiming the seed of the prophet was only in Lady Comstock for 1 week. The memorial also says that Daisy Fitzroy, leader of the Vox Populi, killed Lady Comstock and Elizabeth was put in the tower as a result. This is also what makes Elizabeth figure out she's Comstock's daughter, which I'm surprised she didn't already know. Beyond that is when Elizabeth's assistance really begins to shine, as she'll be able to open tears to help Booker in combat. They can be turrets, freight hooks, weapons, health, salts, and many other things. Not only that, she can also toss Booker health kits, salts, and extra ammo if he's getting low. It explains why you can't stock up on health kits and salt containers, as they wanted you to get help from Elizabeth more often, but her inconsistency can be very annoying. Continuing on the path to Slate, we get a bit more insight on his beliefs. He's upset that the sacrifices of him and his friends are being forgotten in favor of tin soldiers spewing Comstock propaganda that isn't true, and that the real truth will die with him. I mean, it's understandable why he thinks he's going to die. These tin soldiers are packing heat. Seriously though, this is the debut of the motorized Patriot enemy. They suck. They have a crank gun that can demolish your health bar, and their weak spot is on their back. Getting behind them is a lot easier said than done. Luckily, they aren't as strong as a Big Daddy or anything like that. The shock jockey Stocky is gone, so Booker has no choice but to take it from Slate by force. Once all his men are defeated, Booker gets the choice to kill Slate or leave him be. Regardless, he gets the shock jockey. Like Electro Bolt, it shoots electricity that stuns enemies. Ready for some shock and awe, they fight their way back to the gondola and power it up, engaging in some friendly banter along the way.
So, looks like they call you the false shepherd.
And you the lamb.
Let's not call each other that.
Suits me.
How do you figure they'd know you'd be coming?
Either they've got a prophet on their side,
Har har.
or them that hired me also wrote the signs.
Why?
Got me.
Despite seeming like steampunk The Last of Us, the interactions between Booker and Elizabeth were actually inspired by the conversations between Nathan Drake and his friends in the Uncharted series, as BioShock Infinite predates The Last of Us by about 3 months. Big year for games that were received very well at the time but are now looked back on less fondly. But now there's nothing stopping them from sailing to Paris. Hey look, a wrench!
What is that? 40 north by 74 west. That's not Paris, that's New York.
How did you know that?
One thing I had in that tower was time, Mr. DeWitt. Time to study things like geography.
I owed money. And there's a fellow, he offered to wipe away my debt in exchange for you. Come on. Come on. Everything's gonna be okay. Will you just turn around and talk to me and we can...
How dare you use my weapon against me!
You dare use my own spells against me, Possum.
Easy. Fresh air did the trick. This one's awake.
So you're this false shepherd we've been hearing so much about. Caused a mess of trouble at the raffle.
You Fitzroy?
Nothing but.
I got no quarrel with you or your Vox Populi. This is my airship you're hanging me out of, and I got perilous need of it.
Really? Cause it sure look like old Comstock's airship to
Listen,
me.
I ain't looking for a fight.
There's already a fight, DeWitt. Only question is, which side you on? Comstock is the god of the white man, the rich man, the pitiless man. But if you believe in common folk, then join the Vox. If you believe in the righteous folk, then join the Vox.
My ship.
And the Vox shall give her to you. But first, you must help the Vox. Down in Finkton, there's a gunsmith who can supply weapons to our cause. Get our guns from him, and you shall have your ship back.
All that knowledge, and Elizabeth couldn't just set the course to Paris. Now we gotta slum it with the poor people again! Booker's first order of business is once again catching up with Elizabeth after she runs off, but it goes less well this time as she opens a tear right into the waiting arms of Comstock's men. He fights his way through the soldiers and the path seems clear, but a handyman jumps into action.
I'm slipping!
Do not attempt to follow me, Mr. DeWitt.
Elizabeth, I've made an arrangement to get our airship back.
You can get us out of here.
Yes, I just need to supply enough weapons to arm an entire uprising.
And where will we get these weapons? From one of our many friends and allies?
A gunsmith in Finkton should be a walk in the park. What do you say, partners?
You're a liar, Mr. DeWitt. And a thug. But you're also my only means of reaching Paris.
Hey, Elizabeth, your outfit has, seen better days. I don't even know how her clothes are getting dirtied and tattered. I'm the one doing all the work. Booker and Elizabeth have to locate the gunsmith in Finkton, which is a more efficient version of Persephone that also includes all minorities. Minorities and criminals go down to Finkton, run by Jeremiah Fink, and work almost endlessly to ensure Columbia reigns functional for the white and non-criminals. Before their descent, however, Elizabeth finds her mother's journal in Cornelius Slate's old locker, which reveals that Lady Comstock is actually not her mother and had her sent away to be raised in the tower. You know, it's been a while since our last expository elevator escapade.
Hello?
Mr. DeWitt?
Yes?
Hold for Mr. Fink, please.
What's going on?
DeWitt, Fink here. Listen, my boy, we've had our eye on you, and I can tell you right now that you are our top candidate. Top! Now, my associate, Mr. Flambeau, will help you with anything you need.
What the hell was that?
I have no idea.
He seems oddly pleased to make your acquaintance. Well, the man's got an ego.
Now, some say to me, Fink, why is it that we get paid in tokens that are only good at the company store? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll be damned if I let any of you poor folk get robbed at some shady establishment. You see, the Fink Company store brings you Fink products at a price designed specifically for the Fink worker.
This actually isn't Booker's first interaction with Mr. Fink, as he was hosting the raffle that kickstarted this whole mess. While Booker searches for Chen Lin, let's learn a bit more about the woman who sent us on this mission, Daisy Fitzroy. A criminal brought to Columbia by Jeremiah Fink, she was tasked with being the Comstock housekeeper until the whole killing Lady Comstock thing. She evaded capture and formed the Vox Populi shortly after, designed originally to be a protest group of middle and lower class workers tired of being treated unfairly. However, they turned more violent and militant as time went on, like BLM with a less overtly racist mission. Daisy's no saint though, as revealed in the BioShock Infinite Mind in Revolt novel. She had been captured at some point and was scheduled for a lobotomy. However, the doctor that had performed her intelligence tests didn't agree with it and helped break her out, handing over his keys and all the money he had on him. Daisy rewarded this assistance by shooting him in the face. You suck! Back to the action, Mr. Lin isn't in his office, but Mrs. Lin is, and she says he's been taken to the Good Time Club for investigation, no doubt having a bad time. I wonder what kind of music they play at the Good Time Club.
I never heard that song before.
I don't suspect anyone's heard that song.
That song wouldn't be released for another 57 years. On the way there, they're ambushed by a group of Fink's men, including a handyman. Handymen are like brute splicers, but a lot more annoying. They move very fast and deal a lot of damage, but their heart is their weak spot. Who would have guessed the giant orange shoot me circle was the weak point? There's also a trophy for killing a handyman with nothing but heart shots, and I genuinely don't know how you do that.
Skill issue.
Proving this is the most inaccurately named club ever, Booker's time includes a gauntlet of enemies as Fink tests him against other applicants. Once completed, Fink reveals that he wants Booker to be his next head of security, which is the last thing Booker wants right now. Going through the club's secret underground prison, they all have them, Booker can just find some good old-fashioned racism justification.
To tax the black more than the white, is that not cruel? To forbid the mixing of the races, is that not cruel? To give the vote to the white man and deny it to the yellow, the black, the red, is that not cruel?
is it not cruel to banish your children from a perfect garden? Or drown your flock under an ocean of water? Cruelty can be instructive. And what is Columbia, if not the schoolhouse of the Lord?
God man, good thing Martin Luther King wasn't a Christian or he never would have protested against racism. Also down here is Cornelius Slate, if Booker didn't kill him in the Hall of Heroes, looking a lot less, loud. Hopefully Chen Lin didn't meet the same fate.
We're too late. God damn it.
Okay, not the same, but arguably worse.
Dead is dead. What? Where the hell did...
I see heads.
And I see tails.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Why are you following us? Who sent you? Comstock? What do you want? What do you see here? From this angle?
Dead.
Listen.
And that angle?
Alive.
Booker. Chen Lin.
The body's gone. It was never here. It's another Columbia.
A different Columbia.
The same coin.
A different perspective.
Heads.
Tails.
Dead.
Alive.
We have to go through to this other Columbia, but how?
It's like riding a bicycle.
One never really forgets.
One just needs the courage to climb aboard.
Look, there's no blood.
And no body.
It's another world, Booker. Another Columbia.
So they have now stepped through a tear into a parallel world where Chen Lin is still alive, which begs the question why Elizabeth doesn't just open a tear to Paris for them to get the hell out of here. They make it clear that the tears are forms of wish fulfillment and she can only pull through things she sees. But we saw her open a tear to 1983 Paris earlier, just do that again. Anyway, because parallel worlds are never simple, Chen Lin being alive is not the only difference, as one of the kinetoscopes explains the reason he's alive is because he married a completely different woman, a woman who happens to be the sister of Fink's head of security. Also, they come across people that Booker killed in the previous world, now struggling with the memories of their deaths mixing with their memories in this world, which also makes their nose bleed for some reason. Ooh, maybe that's why 11 has the driest nose in the history of television. Chen Lin is also a victim of this, with his wife noting that his tools were stolen and impounded in Shantytown, requesting that they get them back. Can't really make guns with just his bare hands, can he? On to Shantytown we go. It has to be the only time anyone ever said that with any level of excitement.
Ask me.
What?
My finger.
Sorry.
It's all right. It's as much a mystery to me as anyone else. Maybe Songbird knows, but he's not talking.
I'm sorry.
What for? I get to wear this stylish thimble to cover up my hideous deformity. I hear they're all the rage in Paris.
Hey, you know, some people say it's a symbol of excellence. They fight their way through Shantytown because the people there, surprisingly, aren't friendly when they can come across the Graveyard Shift bar, the basement of which contains a guitar that Booker can play while Elizabeth sings to a kid. Why? Beats me. Anyway, they continue their fight to and enter the Bull House impound. While fighting through the building searching for the tools, Booker finds a Vox Square-to-phone from Daisy Fitzroy saying that she didn't kill Lady Comstock. She just went to check on her and found her dead. The tools are found in the basement, though they didn't exactly think about how to get them out of there. And I guess we're not supposed to think about how anyone got them down there. Elizabeth's tear comes in clutch once again as they step into a parallel world where the tools are back with Chen Lin. As they pass by more unfortunate soldiers remembering their own deaths, it's a good time to bring up these scrapped enemy types known as the Merged. They would have been the grotesque result of multiple versions of the same soldiers being fused together by Booker and Elizabeth's multiversal travels. They're actually one of the many scrapped enemy types that would have been interesting to see, like Electro Bolt, the Enhancer, Fink Security, the Freaks, the Mad Toymaker and his toys, the Magician, and the Resurrector. Speaking of resurrections, the fighting outside has resurrected stronger than ever, and it seems like Booker DeWitt is the driving force behind it, as memories of leading the Vox Populi to burn down the Hall of Heroes begin to flood into his mind. We also get 3 indicators in quick succession that Booker died in this world. On the way back, we also get this line that is probably the sole reason some people don't like this game.
These folk need a better class of hero. When it comes down to it, the only difference between Comstock and Fitzroy is how you spell the name.
However, I don't interpret that as Booker saying that anti-racists are as bad as the racists they fight against. I see it more as him saying both Daisy and Comstock are violent extremists with a knack for garnering support and loyalty from others, leading to more violence. Comstock has his soldiers putting down anyone he sees as an enemy, and Daisy immediately made the Vox a military entity instead of peacefully protesting. But MLK hasn't shown the US how it's done yet, so that mistake is understandable. Not understandable by today's standards, but back then, yeah. Soon after, Booker can get the Charge Vigor, which, as the name implies, allows him to charge at enemies. Given that I got this trophy on my second playthrough, you can tell how often I used it. Fighting alongside the Vox, the duo get back to Chen Lin and, oh, they're dead.
Oh no! Anyway,
Elizabeth feels personally responsible for it, but the mission is completed, so all that's left is to get back on the First Lady and finally get out of here. But, of course, Fink's men aren't going to let that happen without a fight that includes a Zeppelin. But hey, at least Daisy's on our side.
Hello? Fink?
I saw you die, Booker. Saw it with my own eyes.
Fitzroy. Listen, I got you your guns. I'm here for my airship.
But my Booker DeWitt died for the Vox Populi. You either an imposter or a ghost. My Booker DeWitt was a hero to the cause, a story to tell your children. You just complicate the narrative.
Well, alright then. With the Vox no longer listening to us, maybe the Undertow Vigor will come in handy. It can both push and pull enemies. There's also this message from living cog Jeremiah Fink.
These holes have shown me yet another wonder, though I've yet to see the application for it. They illuminate a merger of machine and man that is somehow the lesser yet the greater of both parties. The process seems to be irreversible. Perhaps, though, Comstock will have some need of this kind of thing to keep watch in that tower he is building.
I'm sure it's a coincidence that this was placed right next to the underwater-related vigor. I don't even know what it could possibly be implying, because it's not implying anything.
You're lying!
And if it is, maybe we can just ask Fink himself at some point. Oh, never mind. Daisy sends her strongest forces to defeat the imposters, which is certainly one way to call an emergency meeting, though I'd say the only one looking sus here is the one about to kill a child. We should probably do something about that.
If you want to get rid of the weed, you gotta pull it up from the root. It's the only way to be...
Elizabeth.
Oh, now you've done it, Elizabeth. Now the internet's gonna say this is a hate crime and all of a sudden you're the reincarnation of Hitler. Well, no more so than this guy.
It's called Charlie Sheen.
In all seriousness though, this obviously affects Elizabeth deeply. So deeply that it causes her to permanently look so much worse. But now it's finally time to get out of here, though the choice still remains between Paris and New York City.
Elizabeth!
Never mind!
Stop it!
Nope, that is
Stop
mine.
it! You don't know what you're doing!
Ha! There it is.
Elizabeth recognizes the melody as the Songbird summoning song, however it only works on a specific instrument, so if they can find that instrument and play the melody, they'll have control over the massive mechanical monstrosity. Their best bet at finding said instrument is within Comstock House, and luckily they crash landed in Emporia, home of Columbia's upper class, including Comstock House. Unluckily, that also means there's a substantial founder and Vox presence. There's also some Vox presence in the form of the scalps of prominent founders, including Jeremiah Fink. This further pushes the idea that extremists on both sides of an issue are bad. Just because you think one side is more just than the other doesn't justify their actions. But asking Twitter to not take things at face value and throw a tantrum is like telling Sonic the Hedgehog not to run fast. It's all they know how to do. And on the subject of knowing how to do things, the Lutesses are pretty good at that. And I'm just gonna let this scene play out for itself.
I just realized who those two are. They, well at least she, invented the technology that allows the city to float.
Giant balloons.
Quantum particles, suspended in space-time at a fixed height.
So, not giant balloons?
But the thing is, my book said they disappeared several years ago.
I told you they'd come.
No, you didn't.
Right. I was going to tell you they'd come.
But you didn't.
But I don't.
You sure that's right?
Something tells me they're not exactly what they appear.
I was going to have told you they'd come?
No.
The subjunctive?
That's not the subjunctive.
I don't think the syntax has been invented yet.
It would have had to have been.
Had to have had been. That can't be right.
They seem to want to help.
They seem to be out of their minds.
Odd, isn't it?
What's odd?
The fact that we sometimes...
Finish each other's sentences?
Exactly.
It would be odder if we didn't.
How do you suppose they manage that?
I'll get back to you after I figure out the floating city bit.
Scattered throughout this section of Emporia are voxophones from Rosalind Lutece about the Lutece field, which is how Columbia floats, and the Lutece Tear, a gateway to other worlds, and her brother, Robert, who was pulled into this reality. There's also a voxophone about how a girl named Sally was stolen and put in a bar's secret room, which also contains the final vigor, Return to Sender. It basically acts as a slingshot, collecting bullets fired at Booker and shooting them back in a burst of energy. Also, Sally is a poster.
But she is...
That's a pillow.
You know I can't get girls in real life.
Now on the way down to downtown Emporia, they need to find a door code to progress.
Suppose so.
And I won't be locked up again.
Elizabeth, you...
Promise me.
I will stop him.
That is an oath you cannot keep. You promise me that if it comes to it, you will not let him take me back.
Man, I've never seen someone be so emotionally distressed by a bird before. Also, the more observant of you may have noticed that this code is the exact same one from the funeral home in BioShock. Fighting through the streets of war-torn Emporia, Booker and Elizabeth come across Albert Fink's magical melodies.
My dear brother, these holes in the thin air continue to pay dividends. I know not which musician you borrow your notes from, but if he has half the genius of the biologist I now observe, well, then you are to be the Mozart of Columbia.
So Albert Fink, brother of Jeremiah, was hearing songs from the future through these tears and copied them in Columbia to make a fortune. That explains the barbershop quartet cover we heard in the beginning. Also, keep that biologist comment in mind. The gate to Comstock House is a handprint lock, and I really like this line from the security system.
Lady Comstock, how lovely to see you. Wonderful of you to make the journey, especially considering your painful death 19 years ago.
It's a good thing Lady Comstock's body is nearby, because we're going to need her to lend us a hand. Things go as well as things can go when the corpse of a dead mother is involved, meaning Z.H. Comstock uses Elizabeth's powers against her to revive his wife in the form of a ghost, hell-bent on killing Booker with an army of the undead.
What?
Why do you ask what?
When the delicious question is when.
The only difference between past and present
Is semantics.
lives, lived, will live.
Dies, died, will die.
If we could perceive time as it truly was,
What reason would grammar professors have to get out of bed?
like us all, Lady Comstock exists across time.
She's both alive and dead.
She perceives being both.
She finds this condition disagreeable.
Perception without comprehension.
It's a dangerous combination.
Look! Footsteps.
She goes to unfinished business.
We have to follow her. Convince her to open the gate to Comstock House.
I don't know how Booker plans to convince a malevolent spirit to help him open a gate, especially when she doesn't even have corporeal hands.
It's a shame you have need of her to enter Comstock House.
Frankly, she doesn't seem all that cooperative.
There is a way to bring her to reason.
3 truths you must discover first.
Truths which, in this world, Comstock has destroyed.
If only one of you had the power to alter time and space.
That would be a blessing, wouldn't it?
Oh, alright then, we just have to seek out her 3 truths, and with the power of editing, that'll be a breeze. The first truth is in the Lutece's old lab, which contains a voxophone from Rosalind revealing that Mr. Comstock tried to have them killed, but all it did was essentially make them omnipotent, capable of traversing the possibility space, as she puts it. While a tear and separate voxophone reveal the actual first truth. Elizabeth is not Comstock's daughter. Lady Comstock believed Elizabeth to be the bastard daughter of her husband and Miss Lutece, but Lutece explain to her that Elizabeth is a result of their little contraption, and that exposure to said contraption made her husband sterile. The second truth is found in the Bank of the Prophet, and it reveals that Comstock had the Lutesses killed because of the child, and that Lady Comstock died for the same reason. There's also a voxophone from the For-Profit Prophet where he decides to go to the Lutess for help when he fails to have a child with his wife, as he believes Columbia will only prosper while his line sits the throne. The third truth is pretty unimportant compared to the other two, just the Lutess is returning to Columbia after everyone believes they're dead. With those 3 truths discovered, they return to Comstock House to have one more confrontation with the ghost of Lady Comstock, which isn't exactly her ghost per se, it's a version of Lady Comstock from another world where she's alive, mixed with the negative perception Elizabeth had of her mother in her mind. By learning of her mother's plight and forgiving her, the siren is calmed and reveals that Comstock also had her killed because she refused to keep the truth about Elizabeth a secret. Now that the maternal side of the family drama is all taken care of and the gate has been busted open, we press on into Comstock House, still on the search for the instrument that controls Songbird in case you forgot. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen a driveway more inviting than this.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt.
Booker, can you dream at another time? Mainly when you're not being attacked by the most persistent robotic bird since this guy?
Stop! Stop it! Stop it! Don't hurt him! I'm sorry! I'm sorry. I never should have left. I never should have left. Take me back. Take me home. Please.
Elizabeth! See what happens? You had one of your weird dreams and then immediately violated the promise you just made. Booker runs across the stormy bridge to get her back, and all of a sudden it's snowing in July. Maybe those doomsday reports about a second ice age were right after all. Well, it's not too big of a hindrance. Comstock House is right ahead.
We were given Eden, and we turned it into Sodom. Why do we deserve salvation? The Lord gave Noah a fish in the form of a flood, but he was not so easy on me. He said, "Prophet, I want you to train a nation of fishermen."
Oh shit, not good. Speaking of not good, it's time for BioShock Infinite to briefly become a horror game, as Booker has now entered the Hall of Our Lady, an insane asylum within Comstock House housing inmates and founding father masks who seem to be suffering the same static glitching as enemies we've seen before. And they're guarded by the terrifying Boys of Silence, guards who have been experimented on since birth and outfitted with boys' school uniforms and giant metal helmets that obstruct their eyesight but enhance their hearing. Make too loud a noise near them or step into their light and they'll let out a sharp screech and disappear, making all the lunatics nearby attack you relentlessly. Avoid their attention and the inmates will remain peaceful. The way out is, of course, locked, and the only way to open it is in the warden's office, which obviously requires Booker to have to go through the entire asylum, carefully dodging these silent, fully grown, visibly aged boys. BioShock has always had some horror undertones, especially the beginning stretch of the first game, but they've never been this overt. And given how effectively unsettling this section is, I wouldn't mind seeing more of it. As if all this wasn't bad enough, there are voxophones, tears, and PA announcements with Elizabeth that tell us that some time has passed since Booker saw her last, and she's now repeating the preachings of her crooked father. So, what are we looking at, like a week?
You still expect DeWitt to burst in and rescue you, don't you? It's been 6 months.
Alright, so it took a bit longer to cross that bridge than anticipated, but at least Elizabeth had some home movies to pass the time. Oh god, it's the Sinister tapes. Things may not be turning up Booker right now, but at least he made it to the warden's office and can open the path to Elizabeth.
Should be able to head downstairs and get to Elizabeth now.
Am I threatening you? You threatening me? Who's the threat here?
Close in!
The boy, being not so silent, summoned an army that Booker has to fight through on his way out, though luckily all the other boys are gone, so he doesn't have to worry about them anymore, and can instead worry about Elizabeth's pained screaming.
It's a tear. What is it?
Why do you ask what?
When the delicious question is when.
Lives, lived, will live.
Dies, died, will die.
Alright, we get it, you're omnipotent and omniscient, stop rubbing it in! But hey, Elizabeth is just ahead.
The seed of the prophet shall sit the throne, and drown in flame the mountains of man. Say what you will about Comstock. He was a hell of a fortune teller. Wasn't the torture that broke me. Wasn't the indoctrination. It was time. Time rots everything, Booker. Even hope.
I was coming.
Songbird. He always stops you.
Yes, but I would find a way.
No. It's too late for me. I brought you here for your sake. Yours and hers. Here.
What is this?
It's for her. She'll know how to read it.
What does it say?
It's advice.
Advice on what?
How not to become me.
So not only did Comstock's vision come true, but so did Booker's dream. Though now that he's gone back in time, it's more like it will come true if he doesn't do something about it. Comstock is overseeing the procedure on Elizabeth, though runs away once Booker arrives, allowing him to shut it down so Elizabeth can open a tear to the opening of the Wizard of Oz to kill the doctors. The two reunite and Booker wants to use the elder Elizabeth's message to stop Songbird and escape to Paris, but now Elizabeth is dead set on killing Comstock for what he turns her into. Booker agrees to do it for her. The chase is on as the two fight their way to the Hand of the Prophet, Comstock's flagship, and he throws everything he has at them to prevent it. They board an airship to the flagship, and Elizabeth has a question to ask.
Booker, are you afraid of God?
No. But I'm afraid of you.
The fight continues on the path to the flagship as Booker has to hop between airships to clear them out. Once they arrive in the palm of the Hand of the Prophet, he has to clear it out level by level as he opens skylines to progress closer to Comstock. All the while, Comstock says weird prophet stuff.
I may be the one who strikes you down, DeWitt, but you've always had a knack for self-destruction. Who's to say you won't beat me to the punch?
Right ahead of the waiting Comstock is a recreation of Elizabeth's tower.
What is this? A center for ants?
The model showcases the siphon, which sapped Elizabeth's powers and limited what she can do. But now, for the first time in the whole game, we finally go face to face with Zachary Hale Comstock.
Ask him, child. Ask him what happened to your finger. Ask DeWitt.
Let go of me.
Ask him. Ask the false shepherd. Tell her.
She's your daughter, you son of a bitch! And you abandoned her! Was it worth it? Huh? Did you get what you wanted?
Booker.
Tell me!
Booker.
Tell me!
It is finished.
Nothing is finished!
Booker.
You locked her up for her whole life!
Booker!
You cut off her finger, and you put it on me!
Booker, stop it! You killed him.
Well, that was easy.
Huh? You tell me, what did he mean about my finger?
I don't know. I just assumed you were born with it. I don't know.
Your nose. It's bleeding.
What? Elizabeth, I swear to you, I have no idea what he was talking about.
You too. You just can't remember it.
No. I'll prove it to you. We'll destroy the siphon.
But now we have one final objective tacked onto the end that was only introduced moments ago. For those of you who say this feels nothing like BioShock, this is hard to argue against. On the way out though, there are two important voxophones. One from Rosalind Lutece saying that Comstock is aging and therefore dying at an accelerated rate due to exposure to the Lutece's machine, and this one.
When a soul is born again, what happens to the one left behind in the baptismal water? Is he simply gone? Or does he exist in some other world, alive, with sin intact?
Okay, now ignore that because we got one big mama of a final fight on our hands. The Vox Populi army are trying to destroy the Hand of the Prophet, and Booker has to protect it long enough to reach the remains of Elizabeth's tower. Luckily, Elizabeth solves her own puzzle and learns how to control Songbird, meaning he can be used to assist in this battle. Think of this like the Gathering missions from BioShock 2, but way more chaotic and about 10 times as long. Enemies will continue to arrive from zeppelins and attack the flagship's core. Booker has to ensure the core doesn't sustain a certain amount of damage while using Songbird on the enemy zeppelins to recreate the Hindenburg. Once that madness is over and they've arrived at their destination, Booker uses the instrument and commands Songbird to tear down the tower to fully unlock Elizabeth's powers.
Where is he? Where is he?
It's okay. It's all right. I'm here. Just let go. There you go. There you go.
Elizabeth, I'm sorry. What is this place? Elizabeth?
It's a doorway. One of many. This way.
What do you mean it's a doorway? Where are you going? Why? What is going on? Elizabeth, what do you mean this is a doorway?
I'll have to show you.
Probably gonna regret this. City at the bottom of the ocean. Ridiculous.
Look at that. Thousands of doors. Opening all at once. My God, they're beautiful.
The stars?
See? Not stars. They're doors.
Doors to...
To everywhere. All that's left is the choosing.
What are all these lighthouses? Why are we... Who are...
There are a million worlds. All different, all similar. Constants and variables.
What?
There's always a lighthouse. There's always a man. There's always a city.
How do you know this?
I can see them through the doors. You, me, Columbia, Songbird. But sometimes, something's different, yet the same.
Constants and variables.
Yes. Look.
It's us.
Not exactly. We swim in different oceans but land on the same shore. It always starts with a lighthouse.
I don't understand.
We don't need to. It'll happen all the same.
Why?
Because it does. Because it has. Because it will.
There's so many choices.
They all lead us to the same place. Where it started.
No one tells me where to go.
Booker. You've already been.
Wait a minute. I know this place. I was here. It's been 20 years ago, right after Wounded Knee. I was looking for...
Come on now, time's a-wasting.
Why were you here?
Are you ready to have your past erased? Are you ready to have your sins cleansed? Are you ready to be born again? Take my hand.
No. No, I don't want to.
You already did, didn't you?
Are you ready to be born again?
I am.
Do you hate your sins?
I do.
Do you hate your wickedness?
Yes.
Do you want to clean the slate, leave behind all you were before, and be born again in the blood of the Lamb? Jesus, wash this man clean. Wait. Father, make him born again. Lord,
stop it.
What are you doing to it?
Get off me! Get off!
Son!
You didn't go through with it.
You think a dunk in the river's gonna change the things I've done? Let's get out of here. Hey, these doors of yours, they're all tears, right? Well, open one up. Open one up to Paris. I want to be shut of all this.
Not until we find Comstock.
Comstock's dead!
No. He was here. This way.
And what of my debts?
Bring us the girl, and wipe away the debt.
This is the man who hired me to find you.
Really?
Yes. The girl for the debt. What is this? There was no baby. I remember. No, there was no baby, and if there was, I sure as hell wouldn't give it over to this guy.
Booker, you don't leave this room until you do.
DeWitt, time is running short. Bring us the girl, and wipe away the debt.
Go ahead.
No.
You can wait as long as you want. Eventually, you'll give him what he wants.
What choice do I have?
The debt's paid. Mr. Comstock washes you of all your sins.
Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt.
There was no baby. The deal was I go to Columbia to get you.
Booker, you're bleeding.
Oh. I remember.
Now we've upset him.
I don't expect this next bit will do much for his mood.
Come on.
What are we doing here? Comstock's dead. We can just go on with our lives. You don't need
Dead? You mean like Chen Lin? Like Lady Comstock? No. He is alive in a million worlds. It's not over because the Prophet is dead. It will only be over when he never even lived in the first place.
Hey! Hey, the deal's off, you hear me?
Unstable.
The deal is off!
It's
Give her back!
fine, hurry!
Give her back! Give her back, you son of a bitch!
It's ready! Go!
No! No!
Shut down the machine!
No!
Shut it down! Shut down the machine! Now do it!
Give me back my daughter! No! Anna! No. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anna, I'm sorry.
She's gone, Booker. Anna's gone. You shared this room with your regret for almost 20 years. Until one day, a man came to you, offered you a chance, a redemption. A chance for us to work together.
I told you it would work.
We already know it works. The question is, will he?
Anna.
Do you suppose he branded himself as some sort of penance?
Sure.
Don't see the point. What's done is done. What's done will be done. I suppose the brand is his hair shirt, as he is ours.
Wipe away the dead. Use the girls. Wipe away the dead.
See? He's starting to put his story together.
You're quite fond of this theory of yours.
He's manufacturing new memories from his old ones.
Well, the brain adapts.
I should know. I lived it.
Booker, wake up. Booker, wake up. This is where it started.
I sold you. I sold you.
To your credit, you did try to weasel out of the deal.
This is all Comstock's fault. What if I went back? Killed him before he did any of this?
Things get set in motion.
How would one know how far back to go?
That's the only way to do it. Go back to when he was born, and I'll smother the son of a bitch in his crib.
Booker DeWitt, are you ready to be born again?
Why are we back here?
This isn't the same place, Booker.
Of course it is. I remember.
Are you ready to leave behind all that has gone before? Wipe the slate clean.
Who are you?
You chose to walk away, but in other oceans, you didn't. You took the baptism. You were born again as a different man. It all has to end, to have never started. Not just in this world, but in all of ours.
Smother him in the crib.
Smother, 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 smother. Before the choice is made, before you are reborn.
And what name shall you take, my son?
He's Zachary Comstock. He's Booker DeWitt.
No. They're both.
Huh. Well, that's a lot to unpack, so let's start from the top. No, literally, the beginning of the game. Not only does the game open with Elizabeth asking Booker if he fears God, it is followed by this quote from Rosalind Lutece. Booker, believing that he was sent to Columbia to get Elizabeth as a way to repay his debts, was conjured up in his mind as a reason to explain why he belongs in a universe he isn't from. When, in reality, bring us the girl and wipe away the debt was what the Luteces offered to him when he gave his daughter Anna away to them. They got the girl, and they wiped away his debts. Booker tried to back out of the deal and get Anna back, but he failed. In doing so, though, the tear cut off the tip of her pinky, leaving it behind in Booker's universe. In Anna's tower, Lutece talks about how the girl, now renamed Elizabeth, powers come from both what she is and what she is not. She is not whole. She's split across two separate universes, which is what gave her her powers. Also, in case you didn't make the connection, the AD on Booker's hand is short for Anna DeWitt. Back to the opening, Rosalind Lutece also says she doesn't believe in this experiment and that it was Robert's idea, which is also true. Robert felt guilty for stealing Anna and for ensuring the destruction of New York City and wanted to reunite her with Booker. Rosalind didn't want to, but eventually agreed to go along, thus this experiment was born. There's also evidence that this isn't the first time this experiment has been conducted. The first telltale sign being when Rosalind says one does not undertake an experiment knowing one has failed, followed by Robert complaining about their rowing.
I suppose he does. There's no point in asking.
Why not?
Because he doesn't row.
He doesn't row?
No, he doesn't row.
Ah, I see what you mean.
In fact, we can go even deeper than that and find out just how many times this experiment has been conducted. The answer is 122, with the experience we follow being the 123rd attempt. How do we know this? First, the code for the bells at the top of the lighthouse is 122. That seems like a stretch, but then you skip ahead to when Booker does the coin toss. They have Booker flip a coin every single time he goes through, and every time it lands the same way.
Heads.
Told you. I never find that as satisfying as I'd imagined.
Chin up, there's always next time.
I suppose there is.
And how many marks are there on that checkboard? 122. After Booker does it in this game, it's 123. There are also a few smaller clues that the Lutesses know how things play out and are trying to influence change. For example, the telegram Booker gets telling him not to pick number 77, and the dead guy in the lighthouse who had been sent by Comstock. It's entirely possible this man killed Booker in a previous experiment, so the Lutesses took care of him ahead of time. And now the big one. Booker DeWitt and Zachary Hale Comstock are the same person from different universes. After Booker's actions at the Battle of Wounded Knee, he goes to a baptism, which is the catalyst for the infinite parallel universes he creates. Yes, that is how BioShock Infinite got its name. They hid the twist right in front of your face.
So how do you keep a secret from the world's greatest detective? Well, do you know? It's easy. You stick it right in front of him, right under his long, pointy nose, and wait.
If Booker rejects the baptism, he remains Booker DeWitt, gets married, has Anna, and eventually gives her away. If he goes through with the baptism, he changes his name to Zachary Hale Comstock, becomes the Prophet of Columbia, and uses the Lutece tear to steal Anna from Booker. Remember, Comstock believed Columbia would only succeed if his bloodline was at the helm. That's why he stole a child from a parallel universe counterpart of himself. This also ties back into the quantum superposition explanation I gave in BioShock 2. In this case, the box is the water and Booker is the cat. When observed, he either exists as Booker DeWitt or Zachary Hale Comstock, but while he's submerged, he is both. Booker had to sacrifice himself at the end because it was the only way to prevent Comstock from ever being created. If he's born once Booker leaves the water, then all he has to do is never leave. Now we move on to that scene with the lighthouses. Rosalind Lutece describes time as an ocean, so you can see the ocean under them as time itself, with the infinite lighthouses being the infinite outcomes created by Booker DeWitt, including the original BioShock. As Elizabeth said, there's always a man, there's always a lighthouse. Heck, it even applies to BioShock 2, which is probably pure luck. I'll go into more detail into how this connects to Rapture later, but for now, what ends up happening to Booker? Well, that's left vague on purpose. There's a post-credit scene implying that Booker has gone back in time but retained the memories of what happened, and now lives on happily with Anna/Elizabeth as a baby, who may also regain her memories as she grows older. This is possibly born out of the idea that not all the Booker DeWitts died. If the infinite loop of Booker and Comstock was born out of the binary choice of if Booker got baptized or not, then you can take a step back and think that that instance was born out of a binary choice as well. Does Booker go to get baptized or does he not? You can then assume that all the versions of Booker that didn't go are still alive and well. Perhaps our Booker, the one that successfully ended the loop, was rewarded by having his consciousness transplanted into one of those Bookers. All this complicated explanation leads to what many people cite as one of, if not their main criticisms of BioShock Infinite. The whole civil war between the founders and the Vox Populi is ultimately meaningless, and while that is true, I don't really see a problem with it. The Civil War is mainly done to draw another connection between Rapture and Columbia. Both were led by idealistic men whose own flaws prevented their cities from being as utopian as they had dreamed, and both had civil wars started by extremists who used the people's desire for change to fuel their own violent agenda. Now, Daisy Fitzroy is obviously not as evil as Atlas. Daisy actually believed in the cause she was fighting for, but she nonetheless scaled the violence and led a brutal rebellion that led to hundreds of deaths. The only difference between the two civil wars is that Columbia's isn't over before we get there. This makes even more sense when you consider that one of the early ideas for what was then Project Icarus was to revisit Rapture before the Civil War and show how it played out. If anything, it's used as a distraction so you don't catch on to the plot twists earlier than they want you to, and it's pretty effective at doing that. Now, if you've never played the game and just watched this video on it, maybe you caught on to the twist early, but that's because I always make sure to highlight the plot twist hints as they happen. For example, pointing out every time Atlas says, "Would you kindly?" It's easier to pick up on when you single it out, but it's a lot harder amongst the chaos of the game. So originally I was going to include the Burial at Sea DLC in this video, but seeing as how long it is, I think I'll just make that its own separate thing and release it like next week. So be on the lookout for that, and I'll do the whole rating and conclusion and everything in there. But until then, I don't know, drink some water or something, and I hope to see you there.
Continue.
As you can see, Booker, the lunatics are running the asylum.
Well, technically the Joker's goons shipped in from Blackgate, but you get